Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to finish off the Visions MTGO decks by looking at Wild-Eyed Frenzy, which is a mono-red deck. Let's dive in and start looking at this one. So we've got 22 creatures, 8 instants, 4 sorceries, 2 enchantments, single artifact, and 23 land, and we've got a mana curve off to the side there. So yeah, let's get on with this. Look at this this mono-red deck. So, the thing I think that gives it the deck its kind of identity is like I would say like its signature card, which is Kukus. Not a legendary creature, like despite everything about this screams like it should be legendary to me, but like it's not. So you could run multiples of it. So Kukus or Cookie Monster, or whatever you want to call him. So 3 and double red for 3/5 with trample. During your upkeep, if you do not control at least one keeper of Kukus, Kukus deals 3 damage to you and has to attack this turn if able, and it's got fire breathing ability as well. So for the time, actually, I don't think too terrible a creature, like 5 mana for a 3/5 with trample, and like a fire breathing ability as well that you can pump all that mana into. Assuming you drop this like turn 5 and then turn 6 you play another land, that's potentially then 6 mana you put into its fire breathing ability, then you're swinging with like a 9/5 trampler, which like for the time period that this card was released in, like pretty good. Sort of like I'd say even without having the Keeper of Kukus, it's kind of like a minimum downside. Like you're going to want to attack with it anyway, I suppose. Like, and 3 damage to you like is obviously not great, but like it's a time when red creatures have like obviously drawbacks and stuff. So yeah, this is kind of like I'd say like what gives the deck its identity. And then apart from after that, it's kind of like essentially it's doing its best to be like mono red goblins, like way before kind of like mono red goblins was like really like that viable. But like it's this is kind of like the flagship of it, I suppose. And then to go along with Kukus, we've got 3 Keeper of Kukus, who's just 1 red mana for a 1/1 goblin, and you can pay 1 red to give it protection from red until turn, which is okay. It kind of sucks that like it doesn't actually have that much kind of synergy with Kukus. Because obviously, if you have it out, it stops Kukus hitting you, and like you choose whether it can attack or block. And I guess like it getting protection from red makes sense, like narratively, because like, oh, it needs to have protection from red because like it is the keeper of Kukus. But I don't know, I kind of wish it did something like I'm trying to think what you could do. Like, you could tap to give something haste or something. I don't know, or like where it, could give red mana which you could use on fire breathing abilities or something. I don't know. Like a lot of actually things that are coming up in like these MTGO decks. Like this is just something again from like Mirage Block that I would love to see get like reimagined in some way, like in a modern set, like have modern design applied to it and make this. Something else, like make Kukus like an actual proper like legendary creature, give it like a bigger effect, and then have Keeper of Kukus be a creature with some other effect that like synergize with it. I just think that'd be kind of cool. Like I suppose like nowadays like Kukus would be a legendary creature and like it partners with Keeper of Kukus or something. I don't know, that would be kind of cool. Anyway, so that's I just wanted to get that whole rant about Kukus and Keeper of Kukus out of the way. And I say, so it is like mono red goblins pretty much from here on out. I say at a time before mono red goblins was like super viable. Obviously I don't think goblins really got their like big explosion of stuff. I mean, like you had stuff in, I guess, like like Tempest Block and as block. You had goblins kind of all throughout there. I don't think it was really until like Onslaught Block where like Goblin Tribal like really I think took off. But I think there's like a few good effects here, like Goblin Recruiter especially. I feel like I've talked about this quite recently. I did in the Anthologies video, and this is absolutely bonkers. I think this card. So Goblin Recruiter is 1 and red for a 1/1. When it comes into play, you search your library for any number of goblin cards, any number, which is absolutely insane. You reveal them and then shuffle your library and then put those cards on top of your library in any order. So there's a whole bunch of goblins in the deck. So just the fact it can search up any number, that's just so mad to me. It's like it's so obviously not future proofed at all. You could just absolutely stack the top of your deck to be like, right, I'm just going to draw goblins for like the next 7 turns or whatever. Really crazy card. And I think it's one of the big money cards in the deck, obviously, like if you tried to replicate these. Super good. And we've got 2 Goblin Soothsayers, 1 red for a 1/1. So it does have like a tribal effect here, like 1 red and tap, sacrifice Goblin. All red creatures get +1/+1 turn. All the creatures in the deck are red. So yeah, this is actually not terrible. There I was just saying like, oh, Goblin Tribal didn't really take off. There were still like kind of Goblin Tribal effects, like we had Goblin Grenade, like in Homelands or the Dark, one of those earlier sets. Goblin War Shrine, like Goblin King, like all these kind of classic effects. So yeah, there were still effects. I'm not saying like Goblin Tribal what it couldn't be done. I'm just saying like it didn't have as many tools like as it would get. It would obviously get like a whole bunch of stuff when Onslaught block hit. But this is, I think, a pretty good effect. Like one red, and sacrificing like a goblin just to give your whole board. Like, and it's not all goblin creatures; it is all red creatures, and you do have a few non-goblin red creatures in here. From what I remember, getting +1/+1. I think it's actually pretty good. Then we've got 2 Goblin Elite Infantry, 1 red for a 2/2. When it blocks or is blocked, it gets -1/-1, 10/10. This is more kind of like what you'd expect, like of the era, like just a red creature with kind of like a horrible drawback. Like can't just have like a 2/2 for 2. Like it's got to have a horrible drawback in some way, going down to 1/1 when it gets blocked or is blocked. We've got 3 Goblin Swine Riders, and this I think is really interesting. So 1 red mana for a 1/1. When it becomes blocked, it does 2 damage to each attacking creature and 2 damage to each blocking creature. So it gets blocked, and it just like it just goes absolutely mental and just does 2 damage to everything, which I think is super crazy. I would love to know, like, if anyone watching like played during like the time this card was out. Like, to me, like the casual combo that exists here is like this and like lure to do like essentially like a one-sided pyroclasm. Like you put lure on Goblin Swine Rider, you attack with it, all creatures block it, and then they all take like 2 damage from this effect. So I would love to know if that was like a combo at the time. Or like maybe like putting Spirit Link on this as well, so it obviously does 2 damage. I think you gain a bunch of life from Spirit Link. Yeah, I think this is actually like a really fun, interesting like little effect actually. Just don't block these goblins riding a pig because they will cause absolute hell. So really nice. There's 3 of these actually. 2 Goblin Tinkerer, 1 red for a 1/2. You pay 1 red and tap, destroy an artifact, and it does damage equal to its mana value to Goblin Tinkerer. This is actually also quite nice. Actually, quite a lot of nice goblins actually at the time. The fact this is like potentially reusable artifact destruction again for only like 1 red mana, really nice. I think actually, obviously if you kill like 1 or 0 mana artifacts, like you can just keep doing this. Yeah, pretty good. I think. Yeah, the fact this can take down any artifact, like it's not limited by like cost or type or anything. Really like a lot of potential, I think, on this. So yeah, I like this as well. A lot of actually pretty good goblins. There I was saying like, oh, Goblin Tribal wasn't really working, but like all the goblins looked at, apart from those elite infantry, actually pretty good. So the other rare in the deck is Ogre Enforcer, so 3 and double red for a 4/4. Now I talked about this a bit in the previous deck. I suggested it as what could have been, but I do think it's such a unique ability, and I would love to see it come back in some way. So Ogre Enforcer cannot be destroyed by lethal damage unless a single source deals enough damage to destroy it. What that basically means is it can only die if it's going to take lethal damage just from a single source. So like if it attacks and it gets chump blocked by like 4 1/1s, it won't die. It needs to take 4 damage from a single thing. Like you can't like nickel and dime it. Like you have to kill it in essentially one big hit. And I think it's just such a cool like unique ability. And yeah, the fact it's still like decently costed for the time, like 5 mana for a 4/4. Like it's got no other abilities, but it's got no drawbacks as well, which was kind of a thing, obviously, like that decently sized red creatures had. It's not like it can't block or it has to attack every turn if able, and it has this really interesting ability, which doesn't feel super red. Honestly, it feels obviously more like a white ability, I suppose. But yeah, I think it's just a really interesting ability, and I can't think of any other card in the game that has like this same ability. Maybe because it's a bit of a rules nightmare, but I just think it's so interesting and unique. There were some real gems in Mirage Block in terms of like rules and abilities and effects and stuff. It feels like it feels like a time when Magic like really found its legs and like it could start like experimenting more with stuff. Maybe I don't know. That's the feeling I get from it. And then we got 2, and then sort of a bit more standard here now. So we've got 2 Troom Champions, 4 and a red for a 3/3 with first strike. When it blocks or is blocked by any creature, that creature loses first strike to turn. So again, I mentioned this actually in the last video as well as a kind of like, oh, what an interesting card. Like it's always going to get first strike. Obviously, like later in years and years down the line, double strike will be around. This doesn't take away double strike. As far as I know, actually, I didn't check the rules. That like it maybe, no, it doesn't stop someone doing damage during the first strike phase of combat yeah, I don't know, I have to look that up, or someone stick it in the comments below. But I think again this is like just really usability. It's basically it can block other stuff with first strike, and it's always going to get the first hit, and I just think that's a cool ability. And again, like 5 mana, 3/3 first strike with no downside, pretty good for red at the time. 2 Talrun Pipers, 4 and a red for 3/3. All creatures with flying able to block Talrun Piper do so. So not quite straight up a lure effect, it's like a limited lure effect. But the deck has like honestly so few ways, apart from burn, obviously, of like interacting with flyers. Like this is a good way to at least get them to at least chump block. It is still like a lure effect, so other stuff can get through. So yeah, I think this is okay. And a single Viashino Sandstalker, 1 and double red for a 4/2, has haste, and the end of any turn, at the end of turn, it just goes back to your hand. So there was like a whole bunch of these like for a while. Like I think they were all like pretty much Viashinos as well. This whole kind of like they have haste and they bounce back to hand at end of turn. Yeah, they're okay. Yeah, they're usually like quite aggressively costed, but like the downside is you have to keep casting them. A single Flame Elemental, 2 and double red for 3/2. You can pay 1 red, tap, sacrifice. It does damage equal to its power to target creature, which again is not terrible. It's not like again limited to being at say sorcery speed or something. It's quite cheap to do. This is a time when combat damage uses the stack as well, so this can take down X6s potentially, because it can do 3 damage, put that on the stack, and then use its ability and do another 3 damage to that. So that's actually pretty good. Or you can take down 2 like X3s or something like that, or you could like attack a player and then also do X damage. Well, you can't because it needs to tap, but you get what I mean. Quite a versatile ability one, really nice and cheap to do actually. So yeah, also Flame Elemental, pretty good. Right, and then going into non-creature spells. So we've got 2 Fire Blasts, and this is like some peak classic burn here. So 4 and double red, which seems super expensive, right? But it has an alternate casting cost where you can just sacrifice 2 mountains instead of paying its casting cost. It does 4 damage to target creature or player. So this is an absolute threat, right? Like at the time. So I did used to run this like in a red burn deck like back in the time. I just somehow came into just acquired like a bunch of these, and it's like such a feeling of absolute confidence to know that like you've just got 4 damage like sitting there for free. Like all you have to do is like give up 2 mountains, and like if you just need to do that like last 4 points of damage to get through, it's such like a good thing to be, obviously, because like it doesn't have to be like untapped mountains, it can be tapped mountains. So like you could tap out, cast all your stuff, and also then like I do combat damage, like I attack with like maybe a bunch of haste creatures or whatever, get through, opponents left on 3, and then and then middle of combat or main phase 2 as well, sacrifice 2 mountains and sneak in the last 4 damage with Fire Blast. It's such a great feeling. This is such a good burn spell. Really nice that it's included in here. And then we've got 3 flares, so 2 and a red, does 1 damage to target creature or player, and you draw a card at the beginning of next turn's upkeep. It's expensive, obviously, just for like 1 damage and like delayed to draw a card, but like it's okay. Like there's already like I feel quite a lot of actually quite good stuff in this deck already, so this is it's fine. This is like the the tax we have to have essentially, like have a slightly weaker card. We've got 3 Chaos Charms, 1 red mana. You choose one. Target creature has haste until turn, or it does 1 damage to a creature, or you destroy target wall, which is fine. All those abilities I think are okay for like 1 red mana. Giving something haste until end turn is, probably like the weakest ability, but like it's still good. I mean, like you could, potentially drop Kukus and then this immediately get to attack with Kukus. That could be okay. Just pinging a creature for like 1 damage is sort of okay as well, and destroying a wall. There was just like I guess a kind of a load of walls at the time, which some like the smaller creatures in the deck could have like had difficulty getting through, or like you just want to get like a big blocker out of the way. So yeah, I think this is fine. Like all those effects are perfectly okay. We've got 2 Mob Mentality. So it's an aura goes on a creature. The enchanted creature gets trampled, and then it has this ability: if all your creatures attack, or all non-wall creatures, you control attack. Enchanted creature gets +X/+0 on turn, where X is equal to the number of attacking creatures. So yeah, if you just go all out, the creature can get like a potentially huge power boost, and it's also got trample as well. So for 1 red mana, quite a okay little aura. Like I like it plays into this whole kind of like go super aggressive, like attack with just everything at once, and yeah, get a potentially huge power boost. Again, it's only 1 red mana as well, and like even if you're not getting that boost, like it's still giving trample, and like there's still like I would say a few creatures in the deck that don't mind having trample, like the Troom Champion wouldn't mind having trample, I suppose, like having first strike and trample. So yeah, this is I think an okay little aura. And we've got 2 Goblin Scouts, so 3 in double red. You make 3 Goblin Scout tokens who are 1/1s with Mountain Walk, which is just makes more goblins, which is fine. Tokens to sacrifice to the Goblin Surgeon, whatever it was. But yeah, again, it's just going wide with more goblins, which is fine. And then 2 Song of Blood, 1 in a red. You put the top. You basically you mill 4, and for every creature that gets milled, all your creatures that attack this turn get +1/+0 to end turn. So it is limited. That fact it has to be done pre-combat. It's not like it's not instant speed, which is kind of a bit of a shame. But you could set this up with the Goblin Recruiter. Like you just put like 4 kind of goblins you don't care about on top of the deck, then do Song of Blood. That mills 4, you get like +4/+0 for all your attacking creatures. That's like not nothing, I suppose. But yeah, the sorcery speed really hurts it, I think. But yeah, it's still okay, like as a board wide kind of pump spell. And then a single Unerring Sling, 3 mana artifact. 3 tap an untapped creature you control, and does damage equal to that creature's power to an attacking or blocking creature that has flying. So again, one of the few ways you've got kind of interacting with flyers in the deck. It's okay. It's kind of a pain that it can only affect other things with flying. It can't kind of do anything, but then I feel like the effect would kind of be too strong, or it would be rare or something. It's still a time when artifacts are kind of a bit wonky in terms of power. But yeah, it's okay, I suppose. It's better than nothing. And also, like, flyers are generally smaller anyway, especially at the time. So, you wouldn't mind like giving up, like tapping down like a goblin that can't block like one of those flyers anyway, maybe to deal the damage. And then 23 mountains. So there we go. So let's talk about what could have been. So there's a few options here, I think, that could have fit in here quite nicely. Relentless Assault, I think, would have been amazing to have. So 2 in double red. You just untap your creatures that attack this turn, and you get an extra combat phase, which is fantastic. If you're obviously going like super aggressive with all these creatures. You've got like Song of Blood that could carry through. The I wonder actually on the wording on Mob Mentality. X until end of turn. So that could be so great, right? Doing Relentless Assault, all your stuff untapped, you get to attack again. You attack with all your stuff again, get the bonus from the Mob Mentality again. That would be kind of like funny, I suppose. But yeah, that could have worked here, I think, quite well. Hearth Chime, I'm actually surprised wasn't included just because it's a card from Visions and it's a Visions deck we're playing here. So 1 red mana, you either destroy an artifact creature or all attacking creatures +1/+0 to turn. That's the thing that I think really care about in here. Or a creature with power 2 or less is unblockable this turn. So I think all those effects are better than the Chaos Charm ones. The Chaos Charm has the ping ability, I suppose. But I think it's that board wide pump for like +1/+0 for only 1 red mana, which I think is like the real gem here. That's what the deck really wants, I think. And then as another potential, like just aggressive creature, Sukatwa Lancer, 2 in red for a 2/2 with flanking and haste, which I think is just very solid at 3 mana. Again, it's such a shame this got printed in Visions. It wasn't around for like the red and white knight deck in Mirage, because this would have fit in so nicely as another 3 mana cost knight with flanking and an extra ability. But yeah. And then the other thing I want to talk about, because like this is the last Visions deck, and like none of these decks used it, and it's I think like it's such a shame because I used to love these Chimera cards. Like before, this is like the first time we actually had Chimeras in the game. Like before, like obviously what Theros, we got a whole bunch of like more like traditional Chimeras. Like we had these like artifact steampunk Chimeras. I think it's a real shame that no deck used them. Like it would have been so cool, I think, to have like one deck just have like 2 of each of these, maybe, or like even just 1 of each, whatever. Like maybe don't make it like the whole theme or something. But the way these work, I think, is so cool. So you have like the 4 chimeras. They all cost 4. They're all 2/2s, and they all have a keyword ability. So either first strike or vigilance or trample or flying. And they all have this ability where you can sacrifice them at instant speed, no cost, and you put a +2/+2 counter on another chimera, and that chimera gains the gains that keyword ability like permanently. So like these days we do it with a keyword counter or something. So back there, but yeah, it's just super cool. I think they'd be like, oh, I'm going to attack with Brass Talon Chimera and Ironheart Chimera, and then like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice one of them and make the other one like super big. And like the big goal was like, you know, to make a big like 8/8 that had all the abilities or something, which obviously would have been super ineffective because, you know, you've sunk a lot of effort into a single creature. But I think it's a real shame that none of the Vision decks use these Chimera cards. I think they're super cool. They're not great, but I think they're fun, and I think they're quite iconic for the block at the time. So that was Wild Eyed Frenzy. I wasn't too wild on this one, but pun intended. When I was looking at it, when I was putting the graphics together, now like talking about it, I realized it's actually, I think, pretty good. I was going to put this one as my least favorite of the Visions decks, but I think it's like way better than the green and red one we looked at last time. I think it's probably on par with the blue black one. Honestly, I liked the I think the white weenie one was probably, I don't know if it was my favorite. It probably would have been the best one to play or something. But yeah, I think this one's about on par with the blue black one, maybe edging out a little bit more. But yeah, in the end, I thought it was actually pretty good. I'd love to know what you thought about this deck, though. If you've got any thoughts about like Kukas, and like if you'd like to see that see him get reimagined, like in a modern set, so, you know, like in a Horizon set or like a Commander Legends, you know, what would he look like? What abilities would he have? I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that. But if you've got any other thoughts or comments or stories, opinions, stick them in a comment downstairs. I'll take a look and read because I love doing that. But we're now done with the Visions deck. So now we're going to move into the last 4 decks of these Mirage Block MTGO decks. And we're going to start and we're going to look at the Weatherlight decks moving forward. So hope you join me for those next time. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.